and welcome to Stir Crazy Art Classes with Gerald Savine, lesson number 63. We're going to start doing the painting of the flowers. What I've done is, and I hope you again will refer back to the original photograph, I've redrawn the petals and the centre and the bee. I haven't done any detail of the leaves at the back. We're just going to do that by brushing the colour on. And what we're going to do, we're going to start with the background first. In other words, we're going to paint the green so we can highlight the petals, which make it easier to do when we come to actually paint the flowers themselves. If it's not exactly the same as the original, I've taken a bit of license here and I've put petals in here which are being covered over by the third flower, but I've left that out. So hopefully I've got quite a nice sort of balance, I hope, between on the page. I've just strengthened up the square shape and the bee as well. So that'll be a guide for doing the painting. What I've mixed up already, well not mixed up, put on the palette already, is lemon yellow, sap green and ultramarine blue. So when you look at the photograph, you'll see that the greens on the whole, particularly at the top part, are quite bright, and then they get a bit darker down the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the green and pop it in not into the yellow. I'm going to pick up some of the yellow now, and I'm going to mix up that, and I'm going to work fairly quickly. Excuse me. We'll just try and give a feeling of the leaves and things that are in the background. Now again, I'm going to overpaint. Now bearing in mind I'm starting at the top and the back, and I'm just going to have by how I do my brush strokes, just try to give some impressions of the leaves that are in the background. I'm just looking there and seeing how they're going. I'll bring in a little bit extra yellow in places, a little bit of extra green in places. I'm just gradually building up. So it's quite loose. We're not trying to be detailed in this because we want to emphasise the flowers themselves. And then we're going with some solid green here. Give a feeling of the leaves that are in the background. Again, a bit like the petals themselves, you can be more sort of pointy, for want of a better way of putting it. So just brushing in. So being quite bold, quite quick. Again, I'm looking at the original picture, but I'm not being too dictated by what's going on there. Just to some extent, but careful round the petals, because we want to be able to emphasise the petals so we can see. Now I'm picking up some straight colour, being quite strong with it. So the idea is just to have quite a free. So it will help to, at the end of the day, it will help to emphasise the petals. Got some greens through there. And so at this stage I've not bringing any of the ultramarine in, just working purely with the sap green solid and bringing in with the lemon yellow. Can you see it's just beginning to give a feeling of emphasising the shapes of the petals. That's what we want to do. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch the time. Just trying to think, it's all 1:30, so to go, isn't it? Another few more minutes to go yet. And here just bringing in this working way around. Again, as ever, I'm having to work quite quickly doing this, so I hope you'll spend a little bit more time. But can you see how it's just beginning to give a feeling for the shapes of the petals of the flower? What will happen is, I'm afraid, as has happened before, I should be stopping part of the way through, but then hope that you can continue to work through from how we've been doing this at the moment. So you can see we've been quite free with the colour going on. What I'm going to do in a moment, I'm going to change to the bottom part so you can see the bringing the blue in. Again, just to sort of pick up on things. But again here, just coming around the petals. Just imagining that the leaves underneath have got a bit of cat there. And I'm not talking about the plant, the green leaves. Working, I'll just fill in this little space here, and I'll pop down to the bottom part. You see again here, it helps to give shape to the petals. Water in here and there. But again, if you do the same thing, you'll gradually see how the shapes start pulling together. I'm going to get a bit of a feeling of the leaves of the plant coming through over there. Now down the bottom here, I'm going to work into this area here. This time I'm not using lemon yellow in this area. We've got the stem of the top flower. I'm going to bring a little bit of ultramarine there, just to give us a bit more character to the bottom and a bit more dark, building up. Here again, some places could quite rich in colour there, quite deep colour, so don't be afraid to get that on. You can see I've got a rather fat brush here. I'm using a number 6 here. When we come to the other parts, I'll probably use a slightly smaller brush, so it can be a little bit more. A bit lighter through there, bring a bit of contrast. A bit darker. I'm having to be quite quick here, so it's not as tidy as I would normally like it to be. And I hope this sort of makes sense. Imagine the leaves of the plants there. You can see I've been quite heavy with the paint. I've done about 10 minutes so far, I think, if I've got my timing right. Mixing some of the green up with the blue here, and that sort of coming round. So quickly squeeze out some more green, I think. Used to be using that up quite quickly. We want to try and maintain the weight of colour here. We don't want the colour to be too thin. We're going to be doing more subtle colouring when we come to do the petals themselves and the flowers. A bit more green, if I find what I'm with the green, there we go. So we're concentrating on the green at the background first. Get a bit lighter up here. Come round, down. And what I will do is we will run out of time before I get this all finished. So what I will do is I'll fill in the rest of the colouring, and you can do the same. And then when we come back to do the next session, which will be later in the week, hopefully you would have this bit done, and we can then go straight into doing the petals and the flowers themselves. The one downside is that the amount of time we've got to work on this is comparatively short. A few more minutes to go. So, don't want to overstay my time because they have to do it all over again. If you've been sticking with these sessions, well, I have to say thank you very much, and I hope that you've been able to learn quite a bit about your painting and how to approach it as well, because that is also very important. Getting the composition working, and that, at the end of the day, and hopefully you're learning to look. I'm hoping that you will perhaps look to do other things in between times. Not sure for how much longer we'll be doing these sessions. From the point of view of, let's hope that the world puts itself to right, that we can come to a time when we aren't doing these anymore. But then again, I say we'll wait and see what happens there. But again, down here we're going into the colouring between the petals. You see it's just beginning to give a bit of character to what's going on under there. But again, it's deliberately being fairly loose with the painting. So we were just watching the time now. Another moment or two, and I think we just have to call it a session. Okay, so I think what we'll do is we're just coming up towards the quarter-hour spell. Just tickle that in there a little bit. Right, and now I'm going to finish now. You can carry on and get the things done. So I look forward to seeing you next time.